We're broadcasting live from our ZTN studios in Harare. My name is Munashe Mkahlera, and you're watching this special program brought to you by the Zimbabwe Network of Early Childhood Development Actors. And our topic today is education financing. Now, at the World Forum Foundation's Global Leader for Young Children Mentorship Project held in Hawaii in 2011, Dr. Patrick Makokoro identified the absence of a coalition or body of organizations in Zimbabwe that would regularly come together to discuss early childhood development issues as a huge gap. He then decided to address this gap, and the outcome of that decision is what we now know as the Zimbabwe Network of Early Childhood Development Actors, in short, Zinecda. Of course, I would like to thank our partners, Global Partnership for Education, Education Out Loud, Oxfam IBIS, for making this show possible. Now, to delve deeper into our topic today, we're joined by Honorable Torerai Moyo, Member of Parliament for Gokwe Chirea constituency, who sits on the Portfolio Committee on Primary and Secondary Education and the Portfolio Committee on Budget, Finance and Economic Development. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mnashe.
And on Zinecda's side, we have the National Coordinator, Mr. Nason Bunu, and Marceline Kahlari, the Programs Officer. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
We'll start with you, Mr. Bunu. We have established in short who and what Zinecda is. Can you maybe just explain, just expound for us?
Zimbabwe Network of Early Childhood Development Actors is a membership organization which has got 10 affiliations in the 10 provinces, and our membership is more than 200. To be specific, is 252, and our members consist of those who are in education, those who are in nutrition, health, child safeguarding, and also parenting. We have got academics, we have got practitioners, and we have got other stakeholders who have got interest in early childhood development, which to us starts from conception or pregnancy to 8 years.
Okay. And what of the ECD policy? How are we factoring this
in terms of the focal areas for Zinecda are, one, it's policy advocacy, which is to do with early childhood development. And apart from that, I think it's supported by trying to build the capacity of the actors and the stakeholders and the stockholders. In addition, we want them also to network amongst themselves so that they share experiences, they share new knowledge, which is another fourth pillar, which is that one of knowledge generation and dissemination research.
All right, thank you very much. Marceline, which programs are you working on at Zinecda to ensure that all your goals are met?
Okay, we have got the TRANAC project. The TRANAC project is a transnational project whereby we are dealing with advocacy, which considers or influences the policy advocacy in the southern region of Africa.
Okay.
And we also have the SRI project. This SRI, that's the School Readiness Initiative program, whereby we focus on the influencing of the policy making, advocacy policy making at national level. So as you can see, our programs, they interlink. When I was talking about the TRANAC, it basically talks about or influences the informal or internal advocacy, whereby we deal with the countries which I'm going to state, that's the Malawi, Zimbabwe, and Lesotho, whereby we are trying by all means to influence policy advocacy. We also try by all means to strengthen the coalitions which we are working with in terms of advocacy again. In that area, we push every ECD actor or a practitioner to be able to have a voice, to speak out so that we can be able to influence policy making in all these countries I have mentioned. The other area we deal with when we are talking about the TRANAC, we try by all means to strengthen or to make those nations I talked about to get data, ECD data, from their nations or from their countries, so that we can use them as advocacy issues at national and transnational level. Okay. Especially when we deal with the ECD policies in the Southern Africa.
All right. You did mention that a lot of your programs, they are interlinking, and since it's transnational, what's the link between TRANAC and GAWE?
Okay, TRANAC, as I have said, we are dealing with a transnational program whereby we are engaging 3 countries that we are working with. So GAWE, as it is stated, it's the global week of education, whereby we are calling out to have one voice globally in terms of what we have to offer as ECD actors or ECD practitioners, even every stakeholder, even parents and caregivers, what we are about to say in support with the education globally. So we have to have one voice. As you can see, we have got our motto, that's 1 billion voices, and as a nation, we are encouraging education, free education for all. And we are also encouraging them or pushing to the education financing, especially in Zimbabwe.
Okay. Sorry, just to bring it back to you, Mr. Bunu, you did mention that we are looking at the age group from 0 to 8. In terms of, you know, educating not just the young children, how about the parents? How aware are they of this, especially in, you know, in developing countries such as us? How is this working? Are they aware of this mandate for us to have their children, you know, educated?
Thank you very much. As you rightly pointed out, we are beginning from pregnancy up to the age of 8. And when we are speaking of parents, we are also speaking in terms of how important it is also to decision makers at the high level. And it also includes perhaps the learning in tertiary institutions, and also it includes the institutions at the community level. In terms of that, the awareness, to some extent, if I'm speaking of Zimbabwe, yes, it's there. Children start learning when they go to school. Yet learning begins when the child is still in the womb, with the mother, the father, and the siblings, even within the womb. So that learning needs to start there. The parent to be knowing what to do, and also to just like any other thing which is not fully supported. Like what you have said, the programming, and even among us, those that are at national level.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think now we have established what you are doing and what we're trying to achieve. Let's bring it to you, Honorable. Funded basic education, which includes ECD. Now, how are we fulfilling this?
Thank you very much. The Constitution, as you rightly pointed out, that Section 75 talks some way in trying to fulfill that mandate. Despite the economic hardships, the government has gone. I'll refer to the Midlands province where I come from. I come from in Gokwe North District program, whereby students from ECD up. But however, the grant in aid program has some challenges. The amount of money that has been budgeted per pupil is in the budget allocation, so that the resources schools are being provided for by the government. We paid the school fees. Parents should contribute quality education in our schools.
Okay.
Thank you.
You did mention that it's important for, you know, the budget allocation to be increased, but it is known that how can we address this, considering
simply because of some economic challenges caused by a number of resources are now, or as Cyclone Idai as a case in point, whereby a lot of the cyclone. But to address the challenge, we need to engage all stakeholders. We need to come up with a framework whereby everyone should participate their part. We need to come up with an act of parliament which paves way for the provision of a fund which is going to address the needs, or to address, to provide funds for funding our education, to bring about quality in our education system. The other proposal is Zimbabwe is endowed with quite a lot of, a number of resources. We have more than 40, example, mining gold. We need to come up with taxes which are going to be used in terms of financing education from ECD up to university level, not just Form 4. Because even students in universities, they require grants to ensure that their educational standards have improved. So we need quite a lot of intervention in ensuring, in addressing. Yesterday, she donated 30,000 textbooks to the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. 2 weeks ago, if not 4 weeks ago, she donated school fees, paid school fees for some targeted schools and provided uniforms. That's what we require. We want the CSOs to extend that gesture in ensuring, in bringing about quality education in our schools.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Obviously, we have established that there's the status of ECD funding in Zimbabwe right now. Before, we go further into realizing what we need, what has to be done. What's the current status?
Thank you very much. When we are speaking of ECD education, I know within the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, they focus from 4 years up to 8 years. But I know we have been clamoring that learning does not start there. It starts strategies where children have got to learn with the support of the caregiver. But coming to the question that you have posed, you'll find that ECD financing has not been very well supported. Advised that all schools were to have ECD A and B, and that no child beginning from 2015 was going to go into grade 1 without going through ECD B. Budget statements, ECD was featuring up to about 2018. And you would see an allocation which was given funds, which is ECD A to grade 2. But what has happened was more to be the role, to be given that role to parents and communities. That policy pronouncement has seen the budget of it has fallen down consistently to about 14.7 in the 2021 budget. And that is not enough. And you'll find that it is against a background where most of the challenges in education are found at ECD level. It has got the highest classroom pupil ratio of about 4 classes in 1 classroom. It has got the highest teacher pupil ratio of 1 teacher teaching almost twice the recommended 20 pupils at ECD level. It has got the highest deficit in terms of facilities, playground, wash facilities. They're still using toilets which are meant for bigger children, and they are not there. They are still sitting with their feet dangling in the air because the furniture is not age appropriate. Okay. And there are still lots of issues which need to be done at that level. You'll find even at net where children go to school, 40%, according to the 2019 EMIS statistics, of children who are supposed to be in ECD are not there. It's only 60% who are going. And it was also confirmed even by the mixed multi-indicator cluster research by UNICEF. But despite that, you still find that very little is being put into infants. In terms of population at school level, infants, which is ECDA to grade 2, its population in the school is about 33%, yet it is receiving only about 14%. If you look in terms of expenditure at ECD level, it's much less, although it is said at primary, you will find that it's about $89, which is supporting a primary child, including the ECD. But we know for ECD it's much less. For secondary, it's about 240. And you can see that. But when it comes to spending, it's known that at primary it's $167, and then at secondary it's about lower secondary 303. But for other, that one is for like the schools at P1 or P3 schools, which he was referring as
poor.
Yeah,
most definitely. I'm going to have to cut you off there. Obviously, from what you have said, I think I would like to think that most Zimbabweans are really not aware of the current situation that's there. We're going to have to take a short break right now, but as we return, we'll delve deeper into the problems and challenges that are being faced at ECD level. My name is Zinecda. I'm your host. Don't go away. Welcome back to our show. We are joined in studio by Honorable Moyo and two representatives from Zinecda as we talk about education financing. Now, in the previous segment, we were discussing the importance of financing children from ECD level, from 0 to 8 years. And Mr. Bunu just highlighted some of these, and then now I'd like to bring it back to you, Maslin. What will Zimbabwe benefit from a good ECDE program?
Thank you very much, Monashe. I hope and trust everybody out there will be on the same level after this when it comes to the ECD financing. I just feel that Zimbabwe should be able to see some of these advantages, especially when we go back to the old saying of saying, catch them young. If you catch them young, it means you have got given a big foundation or a strong foundation to a child, meaning that later on in life, you won't have any problems. I feel that when we give a lot to the child, when the very time that he or she deserves the support, will yield more results later in life, especially when they have grown up. As you can see, these children, they are our later doctors, they are the parliamentarians, they are the presidents of tomorrow. We will be looking up to them. So I feel that if we contribute at this early stage, they will give us a credit or a benefit later in life. As you also know that child's development, it comes to, it's 90% at the age of 3 years. You can imagine if we don't catch them at that moment, it means that we have lost out some of these, some of the things that we should have contributed to these children. If we don't contribute at the early ages, meaning that they will lag behind later in life. As we also know that if we contribute at ECD level, we have got a great return later in life, be it financially, be it in terms of development. We won't even regret as Zimbabweans, since we would have given it all whilst they are still young. If you take a child, you teach the way to go, you will see that he will take all those advices or even the trainings that we give them whilst they are young. They take them up there as they grow. So I just feel that Zimbabwe will benefit a lot if we provide for the ECD learners, especially if they are still young, so that we cannot have that more resources later to mend those grown-ups without with lagging behind developments. So I just feel that ECD should be prioritized, especially when it comes to budget allocation. We will benefit a lot as Zimbabweans.
Thank you very much. Honorable, you mentioned earlier that it's the community's responsibility. It should also be the parents' responsibility to ensure that ECD is prioritized. But one thing we can note is that over the years, there has been sort of mushrooming of ECD centers, both registered and unregistered. How does this affect, service provision? Why is this happening? And should we be looking at it from, a skeptical eye?
Thank you very much, Mnashe. Indeed, there's been a proliferation, mushrooming of ECD centers throughout Zimbabwe, especially after the implementation of the Nziramasanga Commission of 1997. I must hasten to say that Zimbabwe, we are good at coming up with blueprints. The Nziramasanga Commission was done in 1997, and we only implemented it after 2014. And when the government allowed those ECD centers to be established, there were a lot of them emerged. And from a policy perspective, it is the prerogative and responsibility of government to fund those ECD centers. We want to urge organizations like Zinecda to take a leading role in submitting, especially when budget processes are undertaken, where they would submit to the Portfolio Committee of Budget. I happen to be a member of that, where they would make submissions to the effect that the Minister of Finance should adequately fund all ECD centers. Mm-hmm. And what I've observed, Munashe, is said that in most of the ECD centers, most of the teachers are not paid by government, especially independent ECD centers. Parents are told to contribute towards the payment, and that is against Maslow's theory of motivation. Yeah. Teachers need to be motivated so for them to reach to get to actualization stage. They need to be happy in terms of remuneration. And most of the ECD teachers, they are not happy because they are paid by parents. And you consider someone in Gokwe North, in Chirea, for example, where I come from, very few people can afford to pay those teachers adequately. They are peasant farmers. So in that regard, I think the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education has tried to bring about to control those ECD centers so that they register with the ministry and for sanity to prevail. I'm not so sure if I've adequately answered your question.
You actually have, and you've also then put into perspective the fact that we have to start looking at, possible solutions. I'll refer to what you said earlier when you said that there are organizations that are financing. We have the First Lady, chipping in as well. But now, as we close, we're left with just 2 minutes. As we close, we're now looking at what can be done. We now need long-term solutions. We don't want an instance where there's sponsorship at this time, then maybe next year the donor backs off. So, Nyson, just quickly, what solutions can you offer that can help in a permanent long-term solution?
Thank you very much. I think firstly it has got to be homegrown. It has got to be Zimbabwean, and it has got to be community-based and school-based.
Okay.
And I think in terms of solutions, in terms of provision of education, you need the thinking part of it, the modeling part of it, and which I think in the process there is what is called the school financing policy, which has been a draft for some time, where a thinking process has been put and modeling has been put, and trying also to incorporate the free basic universal education starting from ECD to O level, and which has been done. It's a good beginning in terms of putting into perspective what is supposed to be done. But I think what is now missing within that is in the plans. I can't say what is in, but the plans are that there is need to start using perhaps 5 years in terms of having accomplishing universal education starting from ECD, which we applaud. But I think it's the beginning and the adoption which is needed. But in terms of provision, we need also not to focus on one. Yes, the biggest contributor should be the public, which is government. And with that government, that which comes through government needs to be utilized well, need to be effectively utilized without leakages and without just pouring for the sake of pouring to show that it has been done. That's one. Two, we need also public-private partnerships which are done in order to provide facilities and infrastructure and giving those incentives so that they can provide. I think what we need is to provide that enabling environment, policy environment for that to happen, so that there are more schools which are put either by church schools, by private schools, by communities, and so that is the benefit. The other thing is we need also the international overseas development agency. It has got its own. It might not be much, but it brings discipline into us.
Most definitely.
And it is good also for the short term. Unfortunately, it has been decreasing, just like spending in the public sector. The only thing which has been increasing and now is stagnating is the parental contribution, which is more than what government is actually contributing. So we need to empower people at the community level to see the value that she was saying. We won't have many repetitions. We won't have many dropouts. We won't have non-readers at upper grades and higher levels if ECD is done well, because they will be good readers. You won't have deviant children because they will have grown at the required developmental stages. So in actual fact, those solutions are not only in terms of the financial, but also in terms of the learning and the capacity building part of it.
Thank you very much. Masleen, as we close, what are the programs can we look forward to seeing in terms of ensuring that the education financing aspect is fulfilled?
Okay, thank you, Menashe. We are looking forward to work together as partnership as CSOs in Zimbabwe. So we will be engaging the parliamentarians, we will be engaging the CSOs, we will be engaging other stakeholders who are to do with education, so that we can come together as one and bring up the one voice, so that we can have that school financing that we are fighting for. And the other thing, we are going as ECD practitioners to the decision makers or the advocates, influencers, kind of decision makers, that they will contribute or will support us in terms of our ideas as we are supporting the domestic school financing.
I see you're
Zimbabwe.
taking charge.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we had for today. I would like to thank our guests for coming in today. Thank you very much for joining us and informing us more on ECD. I believe that the future is bright and that government is doing all it can to make sure that all the needs are met. After all, the best way of teaching and grooming children in any field is to catch them young. Thank you once again to Honorable Moyo, Mr. Nason Bunu and Maslin Kahlari for coming into the studio, and to our partners, Global Partnership for Education, Education Out Loud, and Oxfam IBIS. My name is Munashim Kahlera, and you've been watching Zinecda. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.